If you have been paying attention to music marketing and specifically indie music marketing over like the last year, you have almost definitely heard of Jend. He is an independent EDM artist who has kind of risen to fame in our space by getting a ton of streams on Spotify. I think the last time that I checked, he was between 1 and 2 million monthly listeners with like tens of millions of streams on his top tracks. So basically, he had proof of concept pretty clearly that his marketing was working. And in the last year, he went on a bunch of music marketing channels: Andrew Southworth, Jesse Cannon, a bunch of others. I'd love to have him on this channel at some point. He was basically sharing how he got to those streaming numbers and what approaches were working. And so naturally, this caught my attention because I creep on the music marketing space. And so I learned about his approach and I wanted to test it in some campaigns that I was doing. And so in this video, I'm going to share what I think works about the approach and also what I think can lead you into trouble if you are using Jen's approach. So with that said, I guess this is like mild internet beef, but hopefully not. Stick around. Let's get into it. All right, so first of all, for context, this is mostly a meta advertising strategy that Jen teaches. He teaches a bunch of stuff in his main product, which is his blueprint. You should definitely get it. I'm not affiliated with Jen, obviously, in any way, but it's like $44 the last time I checked, and it's super helpful. It's super comprehensive in terms of how to market your music, so worth checking out. And I'm not going to spill all of the secret sauce because that is Jen's proprietary stuff, but the basic premise of his approach is twofold. First, he wants you to be very intentional at testing ad sets at $5 a day with one ad inside of them. And so, for example, if you had $25, you would do 5 different ad sets, allocating $5 per day per ad set with one ad inside of each of them. And you're basically testing each of those ads. Sometimes you'll break it up by different audiences, but the focus is on testing different aspects of the creative. And then the other thing that he recommends is allocating generally at least 1/3 of your total budget toward the first 2 days of your campaign. And so if you're planning on spending, say, $1,000 over the course of a month, he wants you to spend like at least $300 in the first couple of days because, as he puts it, the algorithm takes into account those 2 days more heavily. So that's like the overall premise of his approach. And again, in his blueprint, he walks through a lot of the technical details. So I'm just going to put all my cards on the table. I've tried an approximation of Jen's approach 3 times. I haven't followed it to the letter, which may be part of the problem. But in those 3 times, I have pretty much gotten bad results every time. I think this, like I said, could largely be on me, but I wanted to lay out why I think that's the case and what I think the good and bad of the approach is. So first, I think the good part of the approach is that it really focuses on testing the creative. Basically, if you have $25 and you're using that to test 5 ads, and that test of creative is the main part of what you are optimizing for, I think that's a really smart thing because, as I've talked about on this channel, more and more, I think the key differentiator of a good ad campaign from a bad ad campaign is the content. And so Jen's approach does really well in focusing on optimizing for the best creative right out of the gate. I think that is very smart and makes a lot of sense. But I think there are 2 places where Jen's approach can go wrong or be problematic. So for one, I don't think that interest targeting makes almost any amount of difference. I think any variation in interest targeting is largely down to randomness. So he recommends that you go through and try different like house music or, all these different interest targets. I just don't think that makes an impact, but you can read into the data and I think it's more randomness. So I guess my basic critique of this is that it pays a little bit more attention than I would like to what I would just call noise in the data rather than something I think is significant. But the second thing I think you can get wrong with this, and really it can be more seriously wrong, is that you are really risking a lot by front loading your budget so heavily. Because if you spend $300 out of your $1,000 in the first 2 days and you don't dial in your campaign in those first 2 days, that kind of bodes really poorly for the rest of your marketing campaign. You basically blew through a huge chunk of your spend without getting good results. And that is specifically what I have seen happen the 3 times I've run this campaign. I have had in the first 2 days, the campaign generate a horrible cost per result. And granted, maybe I didn't do a good enough job following his approach to the letter. But then once I had a terrible result, I only had a very small section of the budget comparatively to spend over the rest of the campaign. So basically, I would view this as very high touch and higher risk. If you get those first 2 days wrong, your campaign is more at risk of just not working. There's a line in some business book, I forget what business book, but it's like fire bullets before you fire cannonballs. And so the idea is you're testing small things, and then when something works, you are doubling down on it. And there is an argument to be made that Jen's approach is doing that by testing all of these ads ads at once. But I think in general, just the idea that you're just throwing a huge chunk of your budget at your marketing right away feels more like throwing a cannonball and then hoping that you have enough bullets left after that to make a difference. And I just think in general, it's a riskier thing, especially if you don't have a developed ad account with like good data built up, or if you're newer at just running meta ads in general. So that is my quick 2 cents on Jen's approach. I think it makes a lot of sense. Clearly, he has had a lot of success with it. I think it can work really well if you're in a genre where you're just releasing the same sort of music all the time, and you can build up good data so that when you do put out a new song, your meta algorithm is really well trained for how your ads will perform. But I think for a lot of artists that are genre hopping or that are new at running meta ads, it's just a little bit risky to throw a huge chunk of budget in the first 2 days and not know quite what you're doing. So yeah, hopefully this is not taken as hate toward Jen. I think overall what he's doing is super cool, and I would love to have a more detailed conversation around it. Let me know if you have had success with his approach. If you want to learn more about my approach to ads, you can join my membership. It is literally just $15 a month, so you can join and get all of our courses, whether you're following Jen's approach or Andrew Southworth's approach or mine or someone else's. As always, just wishing you good luck in marketing your music. I hope you're able to find people who connect with it, and just hope that you feel encouraged. You got this.